Hello everybody, this is Jeff with Walk and Talk with Warden Jeff. I want to tell you this story this morning about when I first started my career in corrections. Way back in 1980. Told you before, I was 19 years old, just a kid. Really unaware of what was going on most of the time, like most 19-year-olds were. When I first started, we had to work with different officers, senior officers. 2 weeks on second shift, 2 weeks on third shift, and 2 weeks on day shift. Well, my day shift had just gotten over with, and I had to work my 11 to 7 on midnight, 2 weeks at midnights. And I had to work with an older fella, really kind old guy. He was in his 60s. And like I say, I was 19, so there's quite an age gap there. And everybody told me, said, "Hey, you're working out the gatehouse with Mr. Farley, huh?" They called him Mr. Farley. Farley was his nickname. That wasn't really his last name, but that's what they called him. I never did really know why. They just did. They just called him Mr. Farley. His name tag said something completely different, but anyway, they called him Mr. Farley. So when I was sitting in a roll call room, one of the senior officers come up to me and said, "Hey, so you're working with Mr. Farley tonight?" He said, "Can you play checkers?" I said, "Well, I guess I can." And he said, if you don't, you better learn. He said, he'll teach you. He said, because you're going to play checkers all night long. He said, that's all you're going to have to do out there. The assignment that Mr. Farley had was out at the gatehouse. He sat out there kind of in the middle of nowhere at the road entering the facility, which was also in the middle of nowhere. We're talking deep in the country. There was a highway that ran there, parallel to the prison, but no traffic on it basically, because it was just such a rural area that nobody really drove up and down it of a night. So anyway, we go out here to this assignment. I talked to him for a little bit, and there's really not a lot in common with a 19-year-old and a 62-year-old. But nevertheless, we talked, and he was a very, very nice guy, telling me just a few things about the gatehouse. Not very much, because it really wasn't a lot to know, but there was some stuff that I was going to have to learn for sure. So he broke out the checkerboard like they told me he would. Went out there and set up a little makeshift table and 2 makeshift buckets with a blanket on it. And he said, "All right, let's get started. Let's play checkers." And I said, "Okay, let's play checkers." I'm thinking, this is making a living here, sitting out in the middle of the country, in the middle of nowhere, playing checkers with this old guy. I can handle this. I could do this 5 days a week. So we played a game of checkers, and he didn't talk very much, and neither did I. I was nervous. So basically, we played a couple games of checkers. We were setting up the board for about the 3rd game, and the outside patrol guy had come out to visit us for a little bit, watched the second game, made fun of me that I wasn't any good. But anyway, him and I also became pretty good friends. On the 3rd game that he was getting ready to set up, I noticed that Mr. Farley's color had changed. He had gotten pasty pale white. And I thought, man, this dude don't look too good. He don't look like he's feeling very well. And about that time, he passed out. He fell right onto the checkerboard. Checkers flew everywhere. Knocked his bucket out from under him. And kind of fell and rolled over on his back. And he was holding his side when he fell. Well, he came to really quick. It wasn't like he was passed out for a long time. He came to really fast. And I was trying to get out of him, I said, "What's the matter with you? What's the matter?" And he couldn't hardly talk. So there was one radio in the shack. It was a little shack that we were sitting in, which was a 6x8 little shack with a little bench in there and a bunch of paperwork and some clipboards. And there was a radio in there on the charger. So I went in and I grabbed the radio, and I was going to hand it to him to do what he needed to do, because I didn't know what to do. I was clueless. And he couldn't even talk. So I knew we needed help, so I got on the radio. I didn't use no 10 codes. I didn't use no codes that they were supposed to use. I didn't know what they were. I hadn't learned that yet. So I just got on the radio and I just hollered. I said, "Hey, Mr. Farley's bad sick. I need help." Well, less than a minute, here comes the cavalry. 2 or 3 cars were coming up the road to check on him. Everybody loved this guy. And they went out there, and I was trying to get everything out from under him and off of him, and trying to get his head propped up a little bit, because his head was laying in the gravel. And they come in and said, what's the matter with him? I said, I don't know. I said, he just passed out, and told them the whole story. So they took him up to the healthcare unit. And shortly after that, they called me on the radio with their codes and stuff, telling me that there was an ambulance. 1076, which means there was 1076 was an ambulance was on the way. Well, the 1077 of 5 minutes, which meant the estimated time of arrival was 5 minutes. I didn't know what any of that meant, but when I heard 5 minutes, I figured the ambulance was coming in 5 minutes, so I put two and two together. Well, then the ambulance pulls into the gatehouse, and wouldn't you know it, it was a new ambulance driver who'd never been to the facility before. He didn't know where to go. Well, guess who else didn't know where to go? The new guy at the gatehouse, me. I didn't have a clue. I told him, I said, I don't really know. I said, I don't even know where the hospital is. This is just my first night on midnight shift. I said, I haven't even been here a week. I don't even know where everything's at. And luckily, the outside patrol guy was speeding up the road. He knew I wouldn't know. And he did a U-turn in front and waved his arm for the ambulance to follow him. And I told the ambulance guy, I said, follow him. He knows where he's going. So anyway, they got the ambulance up to the building to get him out of the healthcare unit, and they took him to the hospital. I find out he had a gallbladder attack is what it was. And had to have his gallbladder removed and all that. I felt like I was kind of bad luck for him that night, but fortunately it all got taken care of, and he was back to work in a couple of weeks. Everything was good. But the rest of the story is I had to work the gatehouse that night by myself. Like I said, in the middle of nowhere, pitch dark, just a couple lights on that little building. I felt like everybody could see me and I could see no one. I wasn't scared, but I was a little concerned. I didn't know what animals I was going to encounter or anything like that. So I stayed close to the door there, the shack door, and made sure that nothing got me, you know. But anyway, the night turned out okay. Outside patrol came, made several trips up there for me, and talked to me and kind of guided me through. He knew what to do too. Guided me through what to do in the morning when the morning shift came in and all that. So I had a good experience on my very first night as far as learning. Not a very good experience as far as an officer getting sick and having to go to the hospital. But anyway, that's my story today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you would, like, subscribe, and comment on my page. And I hope everyone has a great day. I'm out.